All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of Trust the Tape. I am Jeff Cavanaugh,
My name is Jeff.
and I am joined by my friend Bryan Broaddus.
Hey, Bri.
And I might have messed up by not saying something before the show started because I didn't notice. Bryan, can you talk for me?
Check 1 2, mic check 1 2 1 2.
Okay, you sound good. I thought I was picking up weird sounds, but I'm not picking up weird sounds. Life's good. How you doing this morning, bud?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Another day of talking football and among other things. So all good.
I got to tell people out there, you know what? Maybe you don't want to spend a bunch of money, and you don't need to because we'll do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Talking football is so fun and easy when you
Mhm.
just tear up the tape every week. Like 700 things just pop up as you're like, oh, we can talk about that. Oh, we can talk
Mhm.
about that. Oh, we can
Sure.
talk about that. You know what my newest take is on the Cowboys?
I kind of saw you on Twitter. Is it the offensive line stuff?
Well, we could do we're going to talk offensive line stuff, but my newest take is that James Houston is the Jameis Winston of defensive ends.
Oh, gets no respect.
No, you need more James Houston just because he's fun. Like,
Oh, I see.
sure, he
Like
might win.
first play, he rushes, he gets a sack, kind of a thing.
First play he rushed, he got a sack. Second play that he rushed, he had already slipped and was falling when he got punched in the head.
Oh yeah.
Third pass rush, he slipped and fell, but he was kind of
Yeah.
making good progress before he did. He's just a wild watch. And then the first two runs at him, the first one he gets washed 7 yards upfield into the linebackers. The second one they try to block him with the tight end. He's like, "Get your little ass off me," and makes a play. He's a roller coaster, and I think you need that on your football team.
Yeah, except the part where him getting driven 7 yards off the ball. You don't need that part.
You need it
the part.
sometimes because that's part of the roller coaster. It's part of the coaster.
Oh, I see what you're doing. All right. I like it. Yeah.
It's
No,
three
I was
touchdowns,
surprised.
3 pick sixes. That's what you're getting from James Houston.
I kind of felt like I was really surprised to how you've leaned into offensive line play because I don't think you ever care about offensive line play.
Well, I think it's so important for this thing because this thing.
Well,
is
no,
gonna go
but
as
you
far as-
don't. But you don't. It's one of the things when you and I watched tape together all those years in scouting, when we were watching offensive linemen, you seemed the least interested in watching offensive linemen.
Well, they're not as fun, Brian. It's not as, although it has become.
But you're telling me about an edge rusher that's fun to watch because of how wheels off he is a little bit.
Well, because what I like to do is before I go watch the tape of a game, I like to go in already with an idea, like what are people thinking and talking about? And people are talking about James Houston needs more snaps so one of the first things I wanted to do was pull up an NFL Pro is great. I just type in James Houston and it's every snap he's on the field.
Every snap.
And you just bang, 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 bang. You run through it. And I wanted to get the pass protection done. Bang, bang, bang. I wanted to do the secondary. And so I know that some of the guys play every snap. So you just pull that guy up and you say, give me every pass play. And it's a lot of fun. And we're having a good time.
Oh, it's a great way to watch tape. If you can get it all cut up that way, I mean, it is the absolute best. But no, I mean, it's because I was all those years of watching with you. I just always felt like that you just really didn't care much for watching offensive linemen play.
I hate quarterbacks too, and I still do. I hate quarterbacks, but also back then when we got started, like it was Tyron and Martin and Frederick and like. I didn't need no offensive linemen, so I don't care.
You can have some roller coaster offensive line play. I think you want to talk about some roller coaster offensive line play. You get it with Guyton.
Oh my God!
You get it with little Booker. You get it with Steele. I mean, if you want to have some fun, like, oh wow, that almost was really, really bad. Thank God that Cooper Beebe peeled back and picked up that guy. You could have some wheels off moments with this offensive line too.
Now, I did put Jadeveon Clowney in the title. So can we start with Clowney and then
Sure.
we'll go on to a bunch of the tape from the game? Because I do want to talk about Tyler Guyton and other offensive linemen. There's a bunch of stuff from the tape against the Giants we got to talk about. But Jadeveon Clowney being added to the team, I love it. I just want to start there. I love it. I think it's the hot dog. I don't think it's the bun.
No, this is a hot dog bun. I think it's a hot dog, too.
Because I do think that group can use the help. You're going to run into a weird thing where you're going to have to talk about whose snaps is he taking? And is it going to be somebody that you really wanted them to develop? But here's my thing. I have a new thing. My new thing is I don't want to hear the word progress stopper for as long as I live. Because our goal is to win the football game that's coming up. And then the next football game, by the way, make sure you go get you a salt and pepper lounge.
Oh yeah.
Get you some of those glasses.
Yeah.
Bryan Broaddus, the dapper gentleman of Cowboys film review. I don't want to hear the word progress stopper ever again. If Jadeveon Clowney means that Donovan Wilson plays 6 less snaps a game, I don't care. Like, he'll get his snaps as he gets his snaps.
That's
Our goal
fair.
is to win football games.
Fair.
If James Houston plays 3 less snaps, I don't care. If Sam Williams is in his last year, he's in his 4th year. I don't want to hear about what he might be one day anymore. If Clowney takes 12 of his snaps, I don't care.
Sure.
What do you think they will get from Jadeveon Clowney?
Everything that I've said about these defensive ends have been wrong. So
nice.
I feel like I have. I feel like I haven't really been right about any of them.
What do you mean?
Thought that Donovan Wilson coming out of camp had pass rush ability. I think he does. I don't see the guy at Boston College that was winning with technique, was winning with first step quickness, was winning with dip and bend and attack. I see a pretty average guy right now. Now, there's been some reps where the end of it, he kind of figures things out. But I thought he was a much better pass rusher coming out of Boston College. Still might be. Might be.
I can see that.
It's tough. It's tough in the NFL. I thought he was one of the 3 best pass rushers in the draft last year coming out. And I say that because of the things I just mentioned. First step quickness, explosiveness, hand placement, bend, dip, finishing at the quarterback. Been tough. Been really, really, really tough for him. Last week, I felt like going into the game that I'd like to see more of Marshawn Nealon playing football. Marshawn Nealon was pretty average the other day. Felt like Marshawn Nealon, good against the run, good with the pass, could play him on the left side, play him on the right side. Looked pretty ordinary the other day playing football. Fowler, another one, and don't mind the 10 sacks, but it was kind of like, okay, well, they're going to try and have to piece together a bunch of sacks to make up for Micah. Pressures. Yeah, hadn't happened. Sam Williams, coming off the knee. Kind of felt like, okay, there's going to be a little bit of some stuff going on here. He's going to have to get it back together. I will give Sam Williams some credit. The interception that Russell Wilson threw on his very last pass was largely due to Sam Williams getting a pressure. Thought I'd see more of that, but I just have not been right on any of these edge rushers yet. And what my thought is about him, my expectations for him. I have not said one guy yet that, well, you can't win with him. You can't. I haven't been critical of those guys because I kind of felt like they each brought something a little bit different, where they play the run, or they, how they rush the passer, or how they play with the quickness, explosiveness, whatever. But it hasn't happened. And so what you got to hope, is that Clowney, I don't think he's the Clowney of 5, 6, 7 years ago. What you got to hope is that he brings an element where they do find ways to get him home. You've got to affect these quarterbacks throwing the ball. We saw what happened when it works. Sam Williams, I just mentioned that. You saw what that did, but they're not doing that nearly enough. And that's the issue right now. And Jeff, I'll pose this question to you. I think you and I have talked about this. I was worried that teams were going to throw the ball on Dallas more than they were going to run it. I was worried about that coming in because I wasn't sure what was happening at corner. I wasn't sure you were going to get Diggs back. I didn't know the Bland situation, who was going to be the nickel, who was going to replace Jordan Lewis. I didn't know. I was worried about teams protecting the front. And this is even with Micah Parsons. Now I'm really concerned. I think Dallas's run defense. All right, let me ask you this. Has Dallas's run defense improved enough to where you won't run the ball on, but you'll just try and throw it on them?
So I will answer your question in a meandering way on something that I don't think I like. Like, I think the Cowboys are really hell-bent on being a tough run team, and I think they probably triple down on it now that they've talked about Micah after he left. And so now, if you put a second running back or a second tight end on the field, the Cowboys are running base every single snap.
This guy plays it well over 20% of the time. You go back through his history, and a gentleman asked me about it on Twitter this morning, and he pulled the numbers. Matt Eberflus, go through his history. He is very much a base running guy. You know, and in the 23 to 25% range.
I think we are in an interesting time in the NFL where I saw something, and it was just 2-3 years ago, where the 49ers, who at the time were one of the best teams in football, they're playing the Chiefs. And it must have been 4 or 5 years ago, because Tyreek Hill was on the Chiefs. And somebody was just illustrating how much defense is changing so fast.
Yeah.
Where they were like, but look, they've got the extra tight ends. So here come the extra bigs. And look at this. It's Tyreek Hill one-on-one running a post.
Yeah.
And it's turned really quickly into like, teams are like, wait, that's what kills us. What kills us is the gigantic play. So what we're going to stop doing is loading up there. What we're going to start doing is saying, no, we're going to have 2 deep safeties at all times. You're not killing us with 60-yard bombs. I dare you to run it over and over and over. And the Cowboys are going the opposite direction, where they are playing for, we're going to try to take away your run game.
Right.
And dare you to beat us with the pass. And I think teams are going to start going, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And so I think they can accomplish their goal of being a good run-stopping team because they are dedicating the resources in terms of bodies and who's on the field for it, which is then leaving you with now your challenge is coverage.
Yeah.
And I think the vast majority of NFL teams want that. You're daring me to pass? I want to pass.
Look what Dallas did. Yeah, no, look what Dallas did on the offensive side of things. The majority of their really good running plays were against light box.
Yeah.
Six or less defenders.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden people are saying, listen, Dallas, you can't run the ball. You're not going to run the ball. You're not going to make any headway running the ball. We're going to worry about your passing game. What Dallas has done, they've the last couple of weeks, they've shown that, like, okay, if you want to play light box against us, we'll run the ball.
Right.
And we'll have some success. And it's kind of opened up some things. But I just my fear going into the season was not Dallas defending the run. I just had more questions about Dallas playing pass defense because I wasn't sure. And I don't know. I'll tell you this, Jeff, and I'm not a defensive back coach or defensive coordinator in these things.
Me neither.
But I'll tell you this. If you give NFL receivers an 8-yard cushion and let them have free run on guys that don't normally play or are really good zone players, you are going to give up a ton of plays. You are going to give up a ton of big plays. And it was clear that the Giants' game plan was, if you get in too deep look and you have Wilson on the field as one of your deep safeties, we're running vertically at your corner, and we're going to run vertically at him playing safety. And Hooker wasn't much better, but I'm just saying, you play a lot of too deep, and you play with a guy that's really kind of a down safety in coverage. That's a recipe, and then get really no pressure on the quarterback. You're asking for a lot of problems.
Dro Knows is in the super chat. Dro Knows is a good, strong viewer / listener. What's the issue with our secondary scheme, personnel, or coaching? Also, why can't this team draft linebacker, defensive tackle, or safety? Well, so jealous of the Chargers. Yeah, and I'm going to reiterate something that you already said. I can be wrong on some of the things I'll say about secondary play, and the reason is because I'm not always 100% sure
what they're
playing.
playing
Best on the tape on what they're running. You try your best based on the context of what everyone else is doing and how they're aligned to try to guess what the other guy's job is. And to your point, as Donovan Wilson is a deep guy, let me see the play that I want to talk about. Let me find it real quick. because I got a whole bunch of notes.
Just run the last touchdown.
Neighbors 25-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
I think that they're actually in cover 4 because Diggs lines up in front of Neighbors, but he's not actually pressing, which is what he likes to do. He just doesn't want to be off, even though his job is a deep third. Yeah. So he opens up and he's jogging to cover his deep. Yeah. Neighbors bends the route a little bit inside, which makes Diggs kind of relax. Like, okay, if you're running out, I'm here, or whatever. There's a post on the other side where Hooker is lined up way over there and is covering that. And so that doesn't look like he has deep middle based on his alignment where he's going. It looks like he has a deep quarter. They have deep quarters, which makes me assume Donovan Wilson has the other deep quarter. Right. And he's sitting there flat-footed. Yeah. And so Neighbors gets beyond him and Diggs playing a quarter and thinking I've got help in here, but there's nobody there. And like, I think now it's possible that that's cover 3 and Hooker has all of that, but based on his alignment and where he went, I don't think so. And I just think it's a lot of guys that are being put in spots that they're not comfortable doing that.
Yeah. I think as a fan base, we're real quick to say, get rid of. I think where you need to be really honest with yourself and do the evaluation is, I think Matt Eberflus is asking Donovan Wilson to do things he's not capable of. And I don't know how you could be a Cowboy fan in all these years and watch Donovan Wilson in coverage and see that there are issues there. Donovan Wilson is a much better player coming forward and kind of dealing with things in front of him. He's not a guy that can turn and run and adjust and do all those things. It's just not. Now, fortunately for him, the interception, we talked about the Sam Williams pressure. He got over. It was a really, really poorly thrown ball. I hate to say if Wilson had time to throw that ball, that might have been another big play over that sideline.
Oh, if he puts that ball anywhere near the sideline, Neighbors might even adjust from running an out route and make a play, but he happened to throw it right where Donovan was standing.
Absolutely. Sam Williams, big help, but Donovan, good job of going up and high pointing the football.
Yeah, and he got hit while catching it. It's a nice catch. Nice catch.
That's not Donovan Wilson's game. Is not playing on the hash and having to turn and adjust, and he always doesn't see it. He doesn't see it. He gets frozen watching backfield action because that's what he's been trained to do. When you play in the box, you're trained to focus in on things that are happening in front of you like that. And he doesn't have the feel for when receivers. And another thing, if like I say, if Elam and Diggs and those guys are going to just let guys have free run at him, there needs to be some collision. There need to be some, if you're going to play cover 2, you need to redirect some guys. You need to hold up some guys. I mean, I just don't quite get it I just don't. And I'm not a defensive back coach. I'm not a defensive coordinator. I'm like everybody else. I mean, I have experience looking at this stuff, and there's times where I'll ask somebody I know, like, what were you playing here? What was the coverage? What were we supposed to be playing here? Even when I worked as a scout, I would go into the coach's office and say, what am I missing here? What am I missing here? And so, I just feel like I just don't know how you could ask or know your players and ask them to do things that they're not capable of doing correctly. And you put them in a terrible situation. It's not Donovan Wilson's fault. It's the coaches that think that he can play as a cover 2 safety, or even as we saw him a little bit of some single high stuff. That's just not his game.
It's not good. Any chance since he's willing to move off Trey Hendrickson now from Dan Myers, I would be stunned. Thank you, Dan, for hopping in. I would be stunned if the Cowboys were involved in something like that. For Cincinnati, I do think that makes sense because now your season is probably shot to move off of a guy who you couldn't agree to an extension, so you just gave him a raise this year. I think that makes all the sense in the world for them. I can't imagine, because if you're trading for Trey Hendrickson, I would imagine that's a trade for and extend. It'd be what he's looking for.
Yeah.
And if you were balking at signing a 26-year-old All-Pro to $47 million, which could have been way less if you'd done it earlier, I can't imagine you're in the market for the 30, what is he, 31, 32, something like that.
He's an older guy.
At a $35 million extension or whatever for that guy.
That would seem to be very bad football. Yeah, there's a side of me, and I know people have asked me this on Twitter. Should Dallas have just signed Parsons and traded for a guy like Kenny Clark? Should they have tried to trade for Kenny Clark?
Yeah, if your goal was to win, but I really just think Jerry got his feelings hurt. Like he was like,
I do too.
Not loyal to me, so I'm going to trade him. And now they're scrambling to cover for why they did it.
Yeah,
the reason they did it is because Jerry got mad. That's why they did it. Shout out to KG. We appreciate you being in the super chat. And we are doing well this morning. Well, I don't want to speak for Brian. I'm doing well. He's probably doing all right.
I'm doing all right.
Doing all
right. Yeah.
Vance is in there. Was Flus calling cover 3 to trips. Diggs was cooked on that Wandale touchdown with both verts on him. Yeah, and I think part of it is also when you do defense that's pretty basic in terms of what I'm showing you is what I'm doing. It's not hard to call a play that beats it. If I know what you're doing, let me see. I got notes on that somewhere too. If I could see, they're in cover 3. It's 3rd and 3. The easy little 5-yard out on Kyer Elam. That's for 9 yards. You take, and again, I don't know for sure what Reddy Steward's assignment is on this play. I'll throw that out. But 3rd and 3, and all they do is they line up a slot and a tight end close to each other. They're on the far hash, and with a tight end that's running straight at your nickel, you can't move out of the way. He's got to stay there. Your corner has a deep third, so if this guy who's running straight breaks out somewhere, it's mine. I can't go downhill. And so it's just a 5-yard out because your defense doesn't account for this with my alignment and how far the throw is and all these different things because you know what I'm in, so you just called a play to beat it. And that's hard. And maybe the answer is somewhere in that defensive play call where I'm not privy to how are you supposed to stop that?
Yeah.
Because
I don't. Yeah,
Mr. Sanborn is supposed to come from dead center of the field and beat this receiver to a 5-yard out because that ain't happening.
Yeah.
I think they can see what you're doing. And you're like, thanks.
We saw some old school Monty Kiffin Tampa 2 defense get just trying to get the Mike Backer down the middle of the field.
Yeah, and they just
Murray and they Sanborn. I mean, this isn't Derek Brooks.
No.
Derek Brooks playing in there,
Okay, let's move it over to the offensive line because I do think that's worth talking about.
Sure.
I do enjoy seeing people after a game. Like I think now we've moved to the portion of the season where, at least on Cowboys Twitter, Terence Steele is the worst player of all time, and Tyler Guyton's playing really well, is what I get from Twitter. And I will volunteer an opinion from this game, and then you can go. I think that it is true that Terence Steele has his struggles, and they have their struggles at offensive tackle. But if you had to identify the guy with the most struggles, I do believe it's Tyler Guyton. And I think the Cowboys know that too, because if you go watch that game, the number of times that Javonte Williams or Jake Ferguson is helping him out is very, very, very high. Steele gets some help. Guyton gets a ton of help. And I'm not saying any of this to say that Tyler Guyton can't play, et cetera, et cetera. I still believe that 2 games in, he looks like a stronger and more confident player. And so I don't mind the track he's on.
Yeah.
But he absolutely has to keep getting better. And what I find interesting, and it better be interesting, is I'm waiting for the stuff that his scouting report was. Like his scouting report, according to most, not necessarily to me, was he's big, he's long, and he's a really good athlete. I actually never saw the great athlete on tape at Oklahoma, and I think that's what is getting him in trouble right now in the NFL. Is his biggest issue, I think, has been, can you run around him? Yeah, some. You can run around him a little bit. But I think his biggest issue is when he thinks he's got to protect the outside, boy, he is beatable inside, and that's a quicker path to the quarterback, and that's been getting him in trouble. And I think he's better at recovering than he was as a rookie, but I think that's one of the things that he has some real trouble with is being able to be, maybe the word is just patient enough to not overcommit to whatever I see and open the door for something that's even worse. Because on the plays where he does, like Brian Burns beat him inside probably 3 times in the first 8 or 9 plays.
Lack of power there.
And then later on he did, where it was like, no, I'm not terrified that you're going to run around me. And when you show me 2 or 3 things, I'm going to wait.
Yeah.
I'm going to make you actually commit to doing something. And I got you. And I got a chance here. So anyway, that's just a lot of random words of mine on where Tyler Guyton is.
I don't think you're wrong. I will disagree with you on one area. I think his athletic ability has saved him on some times where his technique wasn't very good.
It definitely helped him recover when Abdul Carter smoked him and he was like, okay, we're inside now. Crap, I'll just drive you that way.
Yeah, there are times. I totally agree with you. I think there's times where, and this even happened to Tyron Smith some, that teams or rushers kind of figured out upfield, and take him back inside. And maybe the right foot didn't get over quick enough to get in front of that guy.
Yeah.
But the thing with Tyler Guyton is that he is a lot better than he was last year. The problem that you run into is that he needs to be a little bit more consistent with now that whole offensive line, with the exception of Tyler Smith, was pressure fest. You know, I mean,
they allowed more pressures from the Giants than they have in their 2 games.
So the thing that you run into, though, is that was going to be that team coming in that they had that capability. The Giants with Thibodeau, with Carter, Burns, and they even started bringing linebackers too. The linebacker blitzes affected Dallas too. They got BB a couple of different times, and then you got Lawrence pushing the middle. It's going to be a problem. It's a team that's got some really bendy, explosive players. They're going to cause teams problems once they figure those things out. They're going to cause some problems. And going in, I felt like Dallas was going to have to probably play pretty well. Did I expect 4 pressures, 5 pressures across the board? No. But if you told me each guy's going to give up 2, 3 pressures, I would have said there's a possibility of that. I think your tackles clearly are the weakest point of your offensive line.
Yeah.
And I asked Stephen Jones this question last Friday about Nate Thomas. And do you even, or, would you consider putting Nate Thomas at right tackle? And he said, listen, Nate Thomas is pushing both tackles, is what he's doing right now. That was his answer to my question. We'll see. Shoddy doesn't like rotating guys off and on. Now, matter of fact, when they went heavy personnel with the extra offensive lineman, it was TJ Bass that they brought in. It wasn't Nate Thomas that they brought in. So, we'll see. I do feel like, though, that Guyton has gotten better. I think Steele is who Steele is. I don't think Steele is going to get any better. I think you mentioned earlier about riding the roller coaster with defensive linemen. I think you ride the roller coaster with these tackles. I think they're going to be and your quarterback has been outstanding when it comes to moving around and kind of avoiding some things. And then your center's been able to help when he's been uncovered. That's going to be a big loss for the Cowboys, by the way. Brock Hoffman for 3 games, okay. Brock Hoffman for 5, 6 games, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I do think at least that's the spot on the roster where you have guys you're not totally terrified of.
Yeah.
I do think that TJ Bass and Brock Hoffman both, they've played NFL football. I feel
steady,
like
very steady. But BB is, and I know he had some struggles. Dealing with Dexter Lawrence is no fun. That's no fun.
Sure,
I mean, and even Booker and I mean, it's hard.
Yeah.
Those guys are. I mean, it's like Mickey Spagnuolo there for a second. But I think if you look at your biggest issues in my book is your tackles, and I think especially the right tackle, I think is the biggest issue.
It seems like all Cowboy analysts have become negative Nancy's. I don't think that's definitely not intended here on Trust the Tape. We're just talking about what we saw from the game. And if you do want some of the positives, I'll tell you.
Quarterback was outstanding. I'm glad they got Pickens involved.
Yeah.
I think Pickens is going to be it. And I'm going to ask this question today on Cowboys Break. is, do you feel like that? I feel like that George Pickens the next 3 weeks will be the Cowboys' best receiver. Just going on a 3-week sample size.
Oh yeah, see, yeah, I think you're a psycho. I love George Pickens. I love me some George Pickens. Don't play
George Pickens.
Don't play with CeeDee Lamb. Don't play with CeeDee Lamb like that.
I'm just saying. I think they finally figured out how to use George Pickens. You have to admit this. That slant route that he ran on 3rd down and 7 to get that first down with the inside technique.
Yeah,
him going inside, getting the ball, Dak putting it where it did. Maybe the best Dak's made a lot of great throws in his career. I remember the one to Cole Beasley in the back of the end zone against the Giants at the Meadowlands was a huge one. That throw he made into that window with maybe a half yard to spare, and George Pickens going and getting that ball the way he did, that was a hell of a play, man.
Dude, I mean, I think we could go down the Dak throws from just this season. Like the throw to Schoonmaker that he didn't even catch was incredible. The throw to Ferg drop this week was amazing. Drifting left with pressure in his face. The deep drag to Pickens in this game was an outstanding throw. Dak is freaking dealing. I just can't let you play with CeeDee Lamb like that. You're talking about one of the 3.
I'm just telling you, I have no problem with CeeDee Lamb. I have no problems with CeeDee Lamb. I will say this though, you get George Pickens rolling. You're going to see more. You're going to see more what you saw in that Giants game.
And all that means is that the Cowboys offense is going to be freaking awesome. Like if there's ever a conversation about
Williams running the ball, continue to play light box, continue to challenge Dallas not to run the football, continue to believe that they won't run the football.
Yeah.
Williams will run the football.
And also just to get a positive out there, Kenneth Murray played way better football than he did a week ago, especially as a coverage guy, but it also was, the things that he's kind of good at, where he had a clean view of what was happening and he's just going, and he made a bunch of plays that way. So I just want to salute a guy who I killed last week. Much better job by Kenneth Murray. All right, Brian, have yourself a wonderful day.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Appreciate that. You do the same.
Appreciate you guys all for being here. Remember, you have no idea what anybody's going through. Be cool, everybody.